The recruiter was like, congrats, like you're moving on to the next round. I was like, oh my god. I was already just like trying to visualize myself in that position already. It was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna move back to LA again, and I'm gonna be able to go to their headquarters and experience the actual like behind the scenes and be a part of it. And then being told no, that it's not gonna happen, it just kind of, you know, snatches everything away. So this video is going to be a little bit different. I didn't plan anything or write a script out because I felt like it made sense to talk about this in a more unfiltered way, which is rejection. So recently I actually got rejected by Amazon for an interview that I was doing with them, and this was something that was rather unexpected too. But before I quit my job last month, I actually got an email back from them to have an initial interview, and I had actually done that before quitting, and then the second round happened a few weeks after I was officially out of my company. It was a full day of interviews with like more than 5 people. It was like 5 interviews total with multiple people. It was really challenging, and at the end of the day I got rejected, but I felt like it would be important to just talk about these moments, especially as a 20-something-year-old. I feel like in our 20s it's really easy to identify ourselves based on where we work or where we go to school, and kind of just like committing that as our identity or as part of our identity. And so when I did get that rejection email, it was definitely deflating, you know. Even though for me personally, I felt like this time was probably best for me to just focus on myself and figure out what I really want to do with my life, I still wanted to pursue this opportunity because it's just one that I was like, why would I pass that up, you know? Might as well go for it, because you never know what can come out of it. So the biggest thing that bothered me the most out of everything was just that like feeling of being rejected, right? It's just like, oh, we don't want you, or you're not good enough, or those are the thoughts that like come into my head, right, whenever I hear rejection. But that's where I wanted to talk about rejection, just because, you know, it's such a prevalent thing in life in general. Like, you're gonna get rejected no matter what, whether it's a school, a job, a relationship. But in particular, when it comes to like a dream opportunity, that's what it hurts the most. And this Amazon one, I'll just be frank, it wasn't my dream opportunity, even though of course like I would have loved to gotten in. But this kind of reminded me of when I did get rejected by my dream opportunity, which happened actually about a year ago, and that was with Riot Games. So if you don't know already, Riot Games is a company that created the game League of Legends, which is my favorite game and I'm an absolute addict for. But I want to talk about this one because this was by far the most like soul-crushing rejection moment that I've had in my life so far. So this happened last year when I was just casually looking through jobs on LinkedIn, and I saw one for Riot Games that was relevant to my career path, and in the back of my head I was like, I should really apply for this, you know, like just go ahead and apply for this. But I feel like this happens to a lot of people, especially for women. There's like a statistic about this that I forgot, but basically it's like I see this one or several job description requirements that they list, and I'm like, ooh, I don't know if I'm actually qualified because I don't really know that skill or that requirement, so I'm probably not compatible for this job. I literally sat on that for like a week because I had it saved and I was like, oh my gosh, I should really apply for it anyways. But I was also just like, ah, you're not gonna get it, like you don't have that skill, you're not gonna be blah 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 blah, you know, it's all of that in my head. But a week passed by and I was like, you know what, F it, like just go ahead and apply. Like who cares? Like nobody's gonna care if they just like look at your resume and see that you're not qualified. They're just gonna skip you, like they're not even gonna contact you, so what's the point? So I went ahead and I applied, and I was just like, I forgot about it. I literally forgot about it, and I was like, whatever, it's just another one in the dust, like we'll see what happens. But I already in my mind was like, they're not gonna contact me. And then they did. And oh my gosh, I remember I was just like in the middle of another work day, and then I saw that email come through my phone, and my heart literally stopped because I was so shocked. I had no connections to anybody in Riot, and it just really felt like they picked me as the needle in the haystack to just like respond back to. So I was so excited, okay? I was like, oh my god, like I actually got I actually got like contacted back. Obviously I went through the initial screening and the phone call with the recruiter went pretty smoothly. He was just asking a lot of questions about like what I wanted to do, like what are my intentions, blah blah blah, like have I even played like League of Legends before because it's related to the game, and of course like I was like yes. So during that time I passed the initial screening, and then they finally like started scheduling me for the actual interviews, and that's when I was like, oh my god, I really want this. I feel like especially when it comes to a dream opportunity or a job or whatever, it's just that desire for that thing is so strong, you know? It's like, how in the world do I get this? I studied so hard for those interviews, and I gotta say, okay, if you're applying for somewhere, I would always recommend to just check Glassdoor, okay? Check the website Glassdoor for the reviews on the company, but also the interview experiences, because some people will put the actual interview questions on there, and lo and behold, I actually got some of the exact interview questions for that position. So I felt pretty prepared going in, you know? I was like, okay, I think I can expect these types of things that they'll ask me, and overall, it definitely panned out that way, where it was more like hypothetical questions to understand how I thought through problems and like situations, which honestly I personally think that's the best way you can interview a person, just because you understand their thought processes, their problem solving, their analytical skills, and that was definitely not the experience with Amazon actually. And I can talk more about that in a different video if people are interested, but yeah, this Write interview was all about like hypothetical cases, and I was like, all right, I'm in. And I actually had, as weird as it sounds, I had so much fun during those interviews too, because it allowed me to just use my creativity and just navigate the conversation in a way that wasn't more so about like, oh yeah, I did this in my past experiences and that's why I should be the person that you want to hire. I feel like a lot of job interviews, when they use the STAR method about like previous experiences and whatnot, it's very valid because obviously they want to understand what you've done in realistic situations. But it also feels like you have to like sell yourself, which for me personally is just, okay, I don't got that corporate riz, all right? Like, I feel like with those kind of job interviews, you need that kind of like wit and humor to make it go like super smoothly. And for me, I'm just like, I don't really do that well, okay? So yeah, this Write interview, like I had so much fun. It was actually multiple interviews again, but it wasn't as many as Amazon. And I felt really good after those interviews, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, you know, I think I can do this. I think I can do this. And so that was what I would say the quarterfinals of the interview rounds. It was like 2 or 3 interviews, I believe. And yeah, the recruiter was like, congrats, like you're moving on to the next round. And I was like, oh my god. My heart was palpitating so hard, and I was like, is this a reality? Is this actually happening? So essentially I was given an invite to do the semi-finals of the rounds, and I knew it was the semi-finals based on what the Glassdoor like process was saying, and I think the recruiter also told me, I'm not sure, I don't remember, but I knew that this is basically like the round before, I believe, like the in-person round or the final round. And so I actually spoke with, I believe it was like the director of the team, and that's where your girl got rejected. I feel like in hindsight I should have known, kind of based on how she acted and her behaviors, that I wasn't the one. Like, thinking back to it, like during the interview I was like, okay, I think I'm doing okay, but also in my gut I was like, something doesn't seem really right. Like, I feel like she's not really clicking with me in some sort of way. And that was because I think in that time, like, she already made up her mind that I wasn't going to be the one to continue forward. So when I got the rejection email, it was obviously really sad, but also the way that it was phrased was kind of hopeful, because he was like, you know, your skills show that you're absolutely competent, blah blah blah, but there was just a candidate that was farther into the process that got hired faster than you. And I don't know how true that is, but it made me feel like at least a little bit okay with myself, and that it wasn't anything about my skills or abilities that made them hesitate on moving me forward per se. At least like that's how I'm interpreting it. But it just really, again, it felt really sad. I think it was because I was already just like trying to visualize myself in that position already. It was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to move back to LA again, and I'm gonna be able to go to their headquarters and experience the actual like behind the scenes and be a part of it. And it just felt so magical, fantasizing about all of those possibilities, and then being told no, that it's not gonna happen. It just kind of, you know, snatches everything away. But being rejected by Amazon and by my dream company, Riot Games, I think it really taught me a few things about rejection, especially at my age or in our 20s, where I feel like at this point in my life, it's so easy to think that my job or like what I do, where I go to school is really what encompasses my identity of like who I am. And I think it's really easy to kind of commit that part of myself as like, oh, this is how I present myself to other people and how other people will perceive me, etc. And sure, like I think that's unavoidable. I think, you know, if you work at Meta, right, it's like, oh, I'm a Meta employee, like that hits different than a smaller company that nobody knows the name about. Like that's just guaranteed. But especially since I've quit my job and now I'm like actually fully unemployed, it's helped me kind of revisit that perspective in a lens that's more like, okay, who am I outside of my career, outside of where I've gone to school, and just ask myself as a person, right, with no like brand names or school names to present myself by, how do I want to identify myself? And that's where I'm really trying to process this during my time in my fun employment era. And I think also with rejection, it's really helped me to learn to take on a positive mindset about it. And I think this is especially when I got rejected by Amazon, where it was more so like, yeah, it sucks to be rejected by Amazon. Like it would have been amazing to work at such a big company, and it would have been very career changing too. But at the same time, I'm taking the rejection more so as like, it's not because I'm incompetent by any means, it's just because that was meant to be. And I think being able to frame the rejection in a way where it's more of a positive mindset, right? Because I think it's so easy, especially like when something that you wanted so bad rejects you. I think it's really easy to just be like, oh my god, I wasn't good enough for it, or oh my god, like they just don't want me, and like kind of spiral into this whole imposter syndrome of just not being good enough for what you've wanted for so long, and then feeling dejected and feeling like you're just like going down a rabbit hole of like self-depreciation. But I think it's important to then restructure that mindset to obviously be like, okay, how can I improve, right? And how can I be able to come back next time to a different opportunity in a way that makes me feel more prepared, in a way that makes me feel more confident about myself, in a way that makes me feel like I did my best no matter what, and no matter what the outcome is, I'm okay with it because I know that I did my part and I showed up for myself. I feel like with this mentality, it really helps to also digest rejection in a way more productive way, because instead of just like trying to find the easiest way to get a job per se, it helps you to just at least be more reflective and constructive about yourself before going on to the next opportunity. So thanks for watching. I know this one was a bit random, but if you enjoyed it, make sure to comment down below, hit that thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next one. Adios.